Pinned against the cold earth, a lone hunter is buried beneath a writhing mass of giant, red-eyed mantises, her armor tearing apart under the relentless strike of their claws. The sickening sound of mandibles breaking through flesh drowns out her panicked internal begging for a quick death. But as the blood pools and the agony stretches on, the true horror sets in. Salvation isn't coming, and the end won't be fast. Just hours earlier, this slaughter was entirely avoidable, born from a squad leader standing before an undocumented gate, blinded by the promise of uncontested loot. Even as 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 recognized the environment and voiced her paralyzing fear of the predators waiting inside, her warnings were forcefully silenced, manipulated by a leader who demanded she step up and take the hits for the party's greed. So she swallowed her panic and crossed the threshold, completely blind to the towering shadows already closing in around them. The darkness shatters as a tidal wave of chitin and razor-sharp limbs floods the cavern, instantly snapping their arrogant formation. Left isolated on the front line, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 attempts to brace against the onslaught, only for her shield to buckle under the sheer weight of the swarm, driving her into the dirt. Which brings us back to the suffocating grass, her body entirely overtaken by the very monsters she tried to avoid. Seconds bleed into endless torture. How long has she been lying here? All this agony, all this blood, traded away for the empty rumor of a hidden artifact. This slow, agonizing crawl toward the end is only the beginning of her ordeal. Watch the full recap to see if she survives, or if the nightmare mutates further.
We open to a scene of pure, unadulterated suffering, as our main character bleeds out in the darkness. She is completely broken, begging the universe for the sweet release of death. Visually, it's pure nightmare fuel. A swarm of giant praying mantises is quite literally tearing her apart like a midnight snack. Bro really took getting chewed out to a whole new, horrifying level. With her hollow eyes staring into the abyss, she whispers her final wish to just die already. You know your day is going catastrophically wrong when becoming bug food is actually the best item on your to-do list. Flashback time, we cut to a group of C-rank hunters standing suspiciously outside a hidden, undocumented dungeon. This is the exact moment in every horror movie where the audience screams at the screen to turn around. A guy in a red tracksuit starts pitching the classic get-rich-quick scheme to the party. He complains about risking their lives for minimum wage, completely ignoring the fact that hidden dungeons are notorious death traps. Enter our protagonist, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡, clutching her giant shield with visible anxiety. As the team's tank, she actually possesses a basic survival instinct and suggests that maybe walking into Mystery Doom isn't a great idea. But her boyfriend, Hyunjin, immediately steps in to shut her down. Instead of reassuring her, he hits her with a premium, grade-A guilt trip about missing a rare opportunity. He aggressively invades her personal space, glaring down at her with absolute disgust. "Are you trying to embarrass me?" he asks, prioritizing his fragile ego over her completely valid fear of dying. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 tries to explain her genuine trauma from previous bug dungeons, but he completely brushes it off. "You're the tank," he basically says, telling her to shut up and eat the damage like a good little meat shield. Then he drops the ultimate toxic boyfriend combo, straight up threatening to kick her off the team. Bro is practically speedrunning the How to Be Trash handbook with zero hesitation. "Do you really think you'd make it into another guild without me?" he asks with a sickening smirk. Reality check. Every guild needs a tank, but he's desperately trying to make her feel entirely worthless. Tragically, his psychological manipulation works like an absolute charm. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 internalizes all the blame, genuinely convincing herself that she'd be an absolute nobody without this clown. Sensing that her spirit is thoroughly crushed, Hyunjin immediately switches gears to fake affection. He claims he's only saying this because he loves her, yet he loves having a gullible barricade. With her compliance secured, he cheerfully shoves her straight to the front of the formation. Ah yes, chivalry is truly dead, and 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is about to be too if she keeps following this guy. Title drop. The returned C-rank tank won't die. Because if the horrifying dungeon monsters don't kill her first, her incredibly terrible taste in men definitely will. Inside the dungeon, it takes exactly 0 seconds for everything to go horribly wrong. A massive, terrifying swarm of green 𝗡𝗙𝗧𝗜𝗙𝗧𝗜𝗙 drops from the shadows to welcome them to the shadow realm. The red tracksuit guy instantly loses his mind, screaming as the sheer volume of monsters completely surrounds them. So much for that in and out, 20 minutes adventure they planned. As absolute chaos erupts, Ḥyōnchūn barks at the others to worry about themselves while they handle the offense. Spoiler alert, his idea of offense involves doing absolutely nothing. He hides safely in the backline, yelling at 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 to keep her magical barrier up. Bro has zero main character energy, literally using his girlfriend as a wall against a tidal wave of scythes. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 takes heavy hits from every direction, grinding her boots into the dirt to hold the line. She's throwing up shields and desperately trying to buy her completely useless team enough time to act. The pain quickly becomes unbearable as her magical defense starts to shatter under the relentless assault. She is out here doing the work of 5 people, taking brutal slashes to her arms and legs. Hitting her absolute physical limit, she screams over her shoulder for Ḥyōnchūn to cast a healing spell. If she doesn't get back up right now, the entire front line is going to collapse. But when she looks back, reality itself clocks her in the face. The whole team is already sprinting away toward the exit, leaving her behind to become an all-you-can-eat bug buffet. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 watches in absolute horror as the love of her life reaches the heavy stone doors without a single ounce of hesitation. He folded instantly and left her for dead to save his own skin. With a massive, resounding slam, Ḥyōnchūn shuts the dungeon doors right in her face. The sheer disrespect is astronomical. She sacrificed her body, and he locked her in the tomb. Outside, one of the teammates rightfully loses her mind, screaming at Ḥyōnchūn for locking his own girlfriend inside. At least someone in this party has a functioning moral compass, but Ḥyōnchūn just brushes it off, claiming they were all about to die anyway, and that 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 will understand. Bro, nobody on planet Earth understands being willingly fed to giant insects. Back inside, a devastated 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 slams her bloody fists against the unyielding stone doors. It's a beautifully tragic scene of complete abandonment, as the 𝗡𝗙𝗧𝗜𝗙𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗙 swarm slowly creeps up behind her. Realizing that nobody is coming to save her, she wipes her tears and makes a desperate dash deeper into the cavern. Her delusion is still incredibly strong, convincing herself that if she just survives, Ḥyōnchūn will come back. Deep in the heart of the dungeon, she stumbles upon a massive, glowing skeletal tree structure. Because when you're running for your life from killer bugs, exploring the ominous glowing core is clearly the safest tactical move. At the center of the eerie green light, she finds a skeletal hand wearing a shiny, mysterious ring. Main character 𝗡𝗢𝗧𝗏 has officially entered the chat, and it looks incredibly shiny. The moment she slips it on, a glowing blue system window pops up, revealing it's an EX-grade parasitic ring. It promises infinite regeneration and ties itself directly to her life force. But then the terrifying fine print drops, "Cannot die until hatching is complete." She looks at the screen in pure confusion. Wait a minute, what do you mean hatching? Before she can even question what absolute cursed nonsense she just put on her finger, the furious mantis swarm lunges in for the final kill. Things are about to get completely unhinged. Picking up exactly where we left off, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is completely surrounded by a nightmare swarm of giant bugs. But instead of crying this time, our girl officially locks in. She stares down the ugly bastards with a crazed look in her eye, ready to tear them apart one by one. The victim mentality has completely left the chat. With a completely unhinged, blood-soaked smile, she sends a mental message to her trash ex-boyfriend. "Oh, the revenge arc is about to be absolute cinema. I'm getting out of here, and I'll be seeing you real soon, babe." It's giving pure main character energy, and she hasn't even swung her sword yet. She swings her heavy blade, slicing through the giant 𝗡𝗙𝗧𝗏𝗙 like they are made of wet paper. The visual of her tearing through them is an absolute masterpiece of violence, but there are just too many of them. She takes brutal hits from every direction, her HP dropping dangerously low as the swarm completely overwhelms her defense. Just as things look grim, that cursed ring she slipped onto her finger suddenly activates, glowing with a blinding, ominous green light. Main character 𝗡𝗢𝗧𝗏 is officially online. A 𝗡𝗙𝗧𝗏𝗏 scythe pierces her dead center through the stomach, which is usually a guaranteed one-way ticket to the afterlife. But instead of dying, she just looks mildly annoyed. Reality check. She isn't trapped in the dungeon with them, they are trapped in here with her. Radiating a terrifying green aura, she looks at the swarm and hits them with the classic, "What are you waiting for? Come at me already." With glowing red eyes and a manic grin, she dives right back into the horde. She is no longer just surviving, she is genuinely having the time of her life. Slicing and dicing through the monsters, she realizes that the sensation of getting stronger feels incredibly addictive. She's gone completely feral at this point, demanding more bugs to crush and promising to obliterate every single one of them. After what feels like an eternity of pure slaughter, a system window pops up announcing the dungeon is cleared. But wait, the elapsed time reads 434 hours. That's over 72 years in dungeon time. As a reward for her insane, decades-long solitary grind, the system casually promotes her straight to A rank. Talk about the ultimate level up. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 looks around at the empty cave, almost disappointed that the fun is finally over. The bloodlust is still incredibly strong. Stomping on the last dying mantis, she sets her sights on the heavy stone doors. It's time to head back outside and give her backstabbing ex the family reunion he absolutely deserves. Meanwhile, outside the boss room, her teammate Nara is rightfully losing her mind. She's screaming at 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 for literally shutting the door on his own girlfriend. Nara threatens to expose his cowardice to the whole guild the second they escape. At least someone on this squad has a functioning moral compass. But 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 just smirks, completely dropping his fake nice guy act. He tells her nobody will care, because hunters die in dungeons all the time. Bro is reaching astronomical levels of toxicity. He aggressively backs Nara into a corner, dropping a thinly veiled threat that she might be the next one left behind if she doesn't shut her mouth. "You're a C rank. Do you really think you can make it out of a B rank dungeon on your own?" The manipulation tactics are genuinely vile, and he is zeroing in for the kill. But before he can fully finish his villain monologue, a massive boom echoes through the cavern, interrupting his pathetic power trip. The heavy stone doors blast wide open, and the entire team freezes in absolute, completely terrified shock. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 steps out of the shadows, covered head to toe in monster blood, but looking absolutely flawless. "Long time no see," she says, delivering the coldest entrance of the year. The team is completely paralyzed. They literally look like they just saw a ghost holding an eviction notice. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is visibly sweating bullets, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to comprehend how his human meat shield actually survived a confirmed death trap. Realizing he desperately needs to save his own skin, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 rushes over and fakes relief. He immediately hits her with the "I had to save the others" excuse. The audacity is genuinely impressive. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 plays along perfectly. She flashes a sweet, forgiving smile and tells him she completely understands why he left her. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 actually thinks his gaslighting worked again. His delusion is truly unmatched. He fully believes he still has her wrapped around his finger. But as he hugs her, one of the teammates notices something completely terrifying that doesn't add up at all. Her clothes are entirely shredded and soaked in blood, but her skin doesn't have a single scratch on it. The math is definitely not mathing. Trying to brush off the weird vibes, the team awkwardly suggests that now that she's back, they can finally take down the dungeon boss together. Right on cue, the B rank boss, a massive, corrupted deer knuckle, crashes into the clearing. It's time for their so-called teamwork to be put to the test. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 confidently pitches their same strategy as always. In his dictionary, that translates to, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 acts as the human punching bag while they hide safely in the back. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 cheerfully agrees, grinning as she tells him he can completely count on her. Oh, he has absolutely no idea what's coming. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 gives the signal, completely confident that his human shield is about to take the brunt of the damage again. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 dashes forward with her giant shield raised, heading straight for the massive beast. But instead of blocking the monster, she pulls the ultimate Uno reverse card. She completely ignores the boss, sprinting straight past it without a second glance. The team's collective jaw drops to the floor. What the hell is she thinking? They scream, panicking as their entire defense evaporates. The giant beast instantly bypasses her and aggroes straight onto the squishy, completely unprepared teammates in the backline. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 screams for 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 to hold the front line, desperately trying to find his barricade. But she has entirely checked out of this party. Reality finally comes crashing down on him as the towering monster shadows over him. His human shield has officially resigned, and he is left totally exposed. As the beast prepares to strike, his smug, toxic face twists into pure, unadulterated terror. "What about me?" he screams. Bro is finally about to get cooked, and we are absolutely here for it. We pick up right where the chaos started. Instead of just dodging the massive B-rank boss, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is literally parkering up the side of it. The team watches in sheer panic as she scales the beast. 𝗧𝗨𝗏 screams at her, still desperately trying to boss her around and asking if she's completely lost her mind. But 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 just looks over her shoulder, covered in blood, and flashes the most psychotic, villainous smirk imaginable. "What does it look like I'm doing?" she asks. She grabs a fistful of the monster's fur, her glowing red eyes locking dead onto her trash ex-boyfriend. She is radiating pure, unfiltered menace. The cursed ring on her finger begins to pulse with energy as she proposes a fun little game. "Let's see which one of you lasts the longest." The ultimate revenge arc has officially commenced. The massive deer knuckle lets out an earth-shattering roar, totally submitting to her command. The remaining teammates absolutely lose their minds, screaming in terror as the beast violently stomps the ground. The tables haven't just turned, they've been completely flipped into orbit. Cut to the completely useless squad hiding behind some rocks, huffing and puffing like they just ran a marathon. 𝗧𝗨𝗏, still desperately trying to hold onto his leader title, starts barking orders at his squishy backline. He tells the other guy to go tank the giant monster, fully planning to stay completely safe in the back. The sheer audacity of this man. When the teammate hesitates, 𝗧𝗨𝗏 violently grabs him by the hair, screaming that they'll all die if someone doesn't hold the front line. He will literally sacrifice anyone to save his own skin. But before they can even formulate their doomed plan, the giant beast towers over their hiding spot, and sitting casually on top of it, looking like an absolute demon lord, is 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡. "You done talking?" she asks cheerfully. "Great. Then let's get back to it." The team's brains completely short-circuit. They cannot comprehend how a C-rank meat shield has somehow tamed a massive B-rank dungeon boss. The math is definitely not mathing. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 commands the beast to attack. Nara, the only teammate with a shred of decency, desperately throws up a magic guard to protect the squad. But it shatters instantly like cheap glass. The impact blows them entirely away, pure chaos unfolding as they realize how hopelessly outmatched they truly are. 𝗧𝗨𝗏 scrambles backward in sheer terror. He casts his inspect skill on the boss to find a weakness, but his jaw immediately hits the floor. The stats are completely broken. This isn't a B rank anymore. It has somehow evolved into an A rank nightmare with completely maxed out strength. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 gets a system notification too, realizing her EX grade parasitic ring is actively casting a massive buff on the monster. She accidentally created an absolute unit of a beast, but she just shrugs it off. Details don't really matter right now. Squashing her ex is the #1 priority. Let's kill him first and ask questions later, she decides. The boss unleashes an absolute barrage of merciless, earth-crushing stomps directly onto 𝗧𝗨𝗏. Reality is currently rearranging his entire spine, and it is a beautiful sight. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 finally halts the attack, looking down at the broken, battered remains of her former love. "You still holding up?" she taunts. Knowing he's absolutely cooked, 𝗧𝗨𝗏 finally drops to his knees. He gives this pathetic, groveling apology for leaving her behind, locking the doors, and manipulating her. He genuinely thinks a simple, "I'm sorry," is going to fix attempted murder. The delusion is holding on for dear life. But 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 completely shatters his fragile hope. She looks him dead in the eyes and asks if he really doesn't understand why she's angry. "There's only one reason. You being alive. That's the problem. You worthless piece of 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡." The dialogue goes absolutely incredibly hard. She is not leaving a single crumb of mercy. With zero hesitation, the boss brings its massive hoof down, completely flattening him. Bro instantly folded into a literal bloody splatter mark on the dirt. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 throws her head back and laughs maniacally. After all the gaslighting and abuse, the revenge is finally complete, and she is basking in the absolute glory of it. Suddenly, she remembers Nara is still standing there watching. Nara is trembling so hard she's about to vibrate completely out of existence. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 slowly approaches her, covered in blood, and asks the million-dollar question. "Should I let you live?" 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 grabs Nara by the collar, laying down the absolute law. She tells Nara she's only letting her walk out of here alive for one specific reason. Nara was the only person in the entire party who actively tried to stop Hyunshin from locking the dungeon doors. Having a basic moral compass just saved her life. "You better not breathe a word of this to anyone, or I'll kill you," 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 whispers. Nara frantically swears absolute loyalty. She realizes she just boarded the crazy train, and 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is the unhinged conductor pulling all the levers. But before they leave the bloodbath, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 casually reminds her they need to loot the dungeon. "You gotta secure the bag, even right after a murder." The two girls finally step out of the glowing dungeon gate, returning to the real world. But waiting directly outside is the Hanshin Guild management team. And who happens to be leading them? Hyunshin's uncle. Talk about astronomically awkward timing. The uncle asks where the rest of the team is. Without missing a single beat, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 puts on her absolute best tragic, crying face. "Oh, they're all dead," she whimpers. The fake tears are genuinely Oscar-worthy. She lies flawlessly, claiming the boss suddenly evolved and the guys heroically sacrificed themselves to save the girls. The management team is completely stunned, entirely buying the story of how two C ranks miraculously survived an A rank anomaly. The uncle demands to know every single detail of his nephew's brave sacrifice. But with her trash ex out of the picture and a massive, bloody secret to keep, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡's chaotic new life as an immortal tank is truly just getting started. We pick up right outside the dungeon gate. The guildmaster, who also happens to be Hyunshin's uncle, is absolutely losing his mind. He cannot fathom how two bottom-tier C ranks made it out alive, while his precious B rank nephew kicked the bucket. He violently demands to know every single detail, threatening them if they leave anything out. He's mourning his nephew, sure, but mostly he's mourning the fact that his guild's star carry is officially bug food. He glares down at 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡, screaming that she was supposed to support the damage dealers. Bro is quite literally mad that his human meat shield didn't die gracefully enough. He throws a massive pity party, complaining that the guild is broke and the company is hanging by a thread. But 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡's glowing red eyes notice something entirely hypocritical. She calls him out immediately. He claims the company is broke, but he's standing there wearing a premium designer watch, a luxury suit, and drove up in a car that costs more than a house. "We risk our lives for minimum wage, while you're out here splurging like there's no tomorrow," she spits. The absolute audacity of upper management is truly universal. Instead of feeling guilty, the uncle goes completely unhinged. He tells them their days off are officially cancelled, and they will be grinding dungeons nonstop to pay for this mess. And then he drops the ultimate disrespectful line. Why couldn't she have died instead of her boyfriend? Oh, big mistake. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 doesn't even hesitate. With a sickeningly sweet smile, she launches a full power kick directly into his family jewels. The surrounding guild staff absolutely panic as the CEO instantly folds, dropping to the floor in pure, unadulterated agony. Reality just clocked him in the worst place possible. As he writhes on the ground squealing for help, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 just casually calls him a drama queen. She is absolutely thriving in her villain era right now, and we love to see it. She looks down at him in disgust, noting that selfishness and delusion clearly run in his bloodline. Like uncle, like nephew, both absolutely garbage humans. Delivering the final blow to his fragile ego, she officially announces she is quitting the guild immediately. And just to rub a little extra salt in the wound, she carelessly tosses a crumpled 5001 gift certificate, literally $3, onto his twitching body. "A little something for the funeral," she mocks. The cinematic disrespect is off the charts. Nara, terrified but entirely impressed, immediately quits too. They leave the crusty fossil groaning on the concrete and head back into the city to start their new lives. As they walk back, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is weirdly cheerful for someone who just committed a brutal proxy homicide. She excitedly reminds Nara that her trash boyfriend is finally dead, and she was the one who squashed him. But then the reality of her housing situation hits. She turns to Nara and asks to crash at her place, because she absolutely refuses to step foot in the apartment she shared with that deadbeat. Once they settle in, Nara asks the million-dollar question, "What's the plan?" 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 drops another truth bomb. Hyunshin lied to the guild about paying her bills. They actually split everything 50-50, and she has a decent chunk of money saved up. Nara is rightfully disgusted. Her respect for Hyunshin was already deep underground, but now it has officially reached the Earth's core. What a pathetic loser. But wait. Nara suddenly realizes 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 has no job, no home, and zero plans for the future. The internal panic sets in as Nara realizes she might have just permanently adopted an immortal, homicidal roommate. Changing the subject, 𝗧𝗨 admits she's starving. She casually mentions that 𝗧𝗨𝗏 never let her eat late at night because he wanted to control her weight. The toxic boyfriend lore just keeps getting darker. Nara gets furiously angry on her behalf. "You're the team's tank. You literally need mass to take hits." They immediately order a massive midnight feast of braised pig's feet to celebrate her newfound freedom. Later that night, they finally crash. 𝗧𝗨 lies in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how she just wants a quiet, comfortable life. No more giant bugs, no more dungeons, just a peaceful, well-deserved break. But suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through her body. She jolts awake, clutching her abdomen in a blind panic as a cold sweat breaks out over her face. She looks down in absolute pure horror. Something is moving. Inside her stomach, the cursed parasitic ring is finally hatching, and her so-called peaceful break is officially over before it even began. We pick up exactly where that terrifying cliffhanger left off. 𝗧𝗨 is sitting alone in the dark, clutching her stomach as a cold sweat drips down her face. She can physically feel something squirming around inside her organs. She looks down at her hand, staring intensely at that cursed EX-grade ring she picked up in the dungeon. The horrific realization hits her like a freight train. This shiny piece of junk is definitely responsible. Panicking, she grabs the ring and tries to violently yank it off her finger. Because obviously, step 1 of cursed item management is aggressively fighting it with brute force. But the ring instantly fights back. A massive, blinding shockwave of energy violently blasts her backward. Reality just handed her a massive L for trying to break the rules. The system window pops up, glowing ominously in the dark to remind her of the terrifying fine print linked to the wearer's life. Cannot die until hatching is complete. Suddenly, her brain flashes back to a horrifying memory from the dungeon. She remembers a fellow hunter literally exploding into a bloody mess as a giant mantis hatched from his chest. The absolute panic officially sets in. She is currently acting as a luxury airbnb for a nightmare bug, but she knows she can't just stroll into a regular hospital to get it removed. If the government or top guilds find out she's harboring an undiscovered EX-grade item, she won't be a patient. She'll become a literal science experiment tied to a lab table. She needs an underground solution, and fast. Cut to the next morning. 𝗧𝗨 is sitting in the passenger seat of Nara's car, looking completely composed for someone who is secretly pregnant with a killer insect. She casually mentions she went to the clinic, but they said she was totally fine. Completely ignoring her impending biological doom, she abruptly shifts gears and drops a massive bomb on Nara. "Oh, by the way, I've decided I'm gonna live with you." The absolute audacity. Nara rightfully loses her mind. She screams that her apartment is practically the size of a shoebox and definitely cannot fit a homicidal roommate. But 𝗧𝗨 completely brushes off her panic. With a master-level manipulation tactic, she casually suggests they just rent a much bigger place together to solve the problem. Nara hits her with a desperately needed reality check. "You literally quit your job at the guild yesterday. How on earth are you planning to make money for a bigger place?" 𝗧𝗨 stares out the window with a perfectly straight, emotionless face and drops the wildest career pivot in history. "I'll just enter some dog fights." Nara's brain officially blue screens. She starts screaming, demanding to know why a former human meat shield would voluntarily throw herself into an underground deathmatch. Now, to be clear, these aren't actual dog fights. The 𝗧𝗨𝗏 Arena is a highly illegal, underground fight club where lower-tier awakened hunters beat each other to a bloody pulp for the entertainment of wealthy gamblers. Nara points out a massive, hilarious flaw in this master plan. "Wait a second, you aren't a C rank anymore. You literally cleared an anomaly dungeon for 72 years. But 𝗧𝗨 just flashes the most diabolical, villainous smirk imaginable. "Who cares?" she says. Her official government ID still lists her as C rank, so technically, she's just engaging in a little bit of light fraud. Bro is literally planning to go smurfing in real life. She tells Nara that if she places her life savings on her to win, they'll walk out absolute millionaires. Nara, completely seduced by the idea of being rich, nervously boards the crime train. They finally pull up to the secret location, but it looks absolutely nothing like a mafia fight club. It's literally the crustiest, most rundown supply shop in the middle of nowhere. Inside, they find a sweet-looking grandma peacefully knitting behind the counter. 𝗧𝗧𝗏 steps up, trying to act cool as she drops the secret inquiry to enter the underground arena. The old lady casually demands her hunter license. 𝗧𝗏 hands it over, totally prepared to commit premium identity fraud with her outdated C rank badge. But then the vibe completely shifts. The grandma stops knitting, adjusts her glasses, and looks dead into 𝗧𝗏's soul. "So you've killed someone before, huh?" she asks. The granny's aura is absolutely terrifying. 𝗧𝗏 instantly sweats bullets. She frantically waves her hands, desperately denying that she literally flattened her trash ex-boyfriend into a bloody pancake less than 24 hours ago. The grandma chuckles and lets them pass, but drops a massive entrance fee on them. And here's where the ultimate crisis hits. Nara only brought a credit card, and the lady casually mentions there's a massive 10% markup for card payments. Suddenly, our two badass underground fighters are aggressively whispering and bickering, like broke college students, over who has to pay the absurd entrance fee. They take seats in the waiting area, completely breaking their tough guy personas. They are full-on fighting. Nara screams that half her apartment deposit belongs to the bank, and 𝗧𝗏 yells back that she is literally homeless. While they are having a pathetic financial meltdown in the middle of a highly illegal mafia fight club, a shadow falls over them. "First time here," a deep voice asks. They look up to see a tall, imposing fighter with bright red hair glaring down at them. He leans in close, smirking at their pathetic argument, and asks, "Mind if I sit here?" The tension instantly skyrockets. Who the hell is this guy? Is he a top-tier fighter, or is he about to become 𝗧𝗏's first victim in the ring? The underground tournament is officially starting, and absolute chaos is about to unfold. We pick up exactly where the tension peaked. The underground DXC arena is absolutely roaring, but all the focus is on this mysterious, red-haired giant who just crashed 𝗧𝗏's personal space. He leans over, casting a massive shadow, and casually asks if he can sit next to her. The audacity is crazy, but 𝗧𝗏 just gives him a blank, entirely unimpressed stare and tells him to go ahead. He immediately tries to make some light small talk, asking who she's betting her money on tonight. Bro is really out here trying to flirt at an illegal underground deathmatch, but 𝗧𝗏 completely shuts down the vibe. She looks him dead in the eye and casually mentions she isn't here to place bets. She's entering the bloodbath herself. The guy smirks, clearly intrigued by her absolute lack of fear. He leans in closer and whispers that he only puts his money on undeniably strong fighters. "Like you, maybe." 𝗧𝗏's heart instantly drops to her stomach. Her inner alarm bells are blaring at maximum volume. Did this random dude somehow figure out her real rank? We get to see exactly what he's up to. The guy quietly activates an inspect skill, trying to secretly run a background check and read her hidden stats. Big mistake, buddy. A glowing blue system window pops up in front of his face, but the numbers are completely glitched out. Her raw strength stat casually reads 222, which is absolutely, undeniably monstrous for a supposed C rank. His brain completely short-circuits in real time. Everything else just reads as completely blocked question marks. The parasitic EX grade ring is actively scrambling his skill, and he realizes he's looking at an absolute anomaly. 𝗧𝗏 immediately senses the mana shift in the air. She turns and hits him with a terrifying, death stare glare, instantly realizing he just tried to scan her without permission. Fast forward to their heated confrontation. He has the absolute nerve to claim she ruined his chance to make some easy money since he can't figure out her real odds, so technically, she owes him. 𝗧𝗏 is absolutely not having it. "Are you kidding me?" She spits back, completely refusing to let some random, overconfident guy bully her in a dingy waiting room. She completely flips the script, calling him out for being a high-ranking hunter who is wasting his talents smurfing in a low-level underground ring instead of joining a real guild. Reality check delivered. And then she drops the real kicker. She noticed him using an illegal item to scan her. The tables just turned so incredibly fast, he probably got whiplash. But instead of panicking or backing down, the red-haired guy just laughs. He casually shrugs, claiming he's just down here for fun. "Sure bro, totally normal weekend hobby." Realizing they technically both have massive dirt on each other, he proposes a truce. "I look the other way while you faked your rank." He smirks, suggesting they just stay out of each other's business. The silent agreement is struck, but the tension is still thick enough to cut with a broadsword. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 just made a very dangerous, incredibly observant new rival, and the actual tournament hasn't even started yet. Audience, buckle up. We pick up right in the thick of it. The tension between 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 and the mysterious red-haired giant is instantly interrupted when some random street thugs decide to try their luck. Bad idea. 𝗓𝗛𝗓 doesn't even blink before grabbing one of the thugs by the wrist and absolutely crushing it. The dude instantly folds, screaming in pure agony. With zero hesitation, 𝗓𝗛𝗓 casually hands the crying criminal over to the local police like he's returning a lost wallet. Bro really thought he was the main character for exactly 3 seconds before getting totally cooked. But before 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 can even process the casual beatdown, a massive explosion violently rips through the building behind them. Absolute chaos erupts out of nowhere. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 sprints for her life, looking back at the flames in sheer disbelief. She screams at 𝗓𝗛𝗓, asking if it's really okay to just casually commit domestic terrorism on a Tuesday. But 𝗓𝗛𝗓 is literally just jogging, completely unbothered. He tells her less talking, more running, explaining that he needs to visit a special appraiser for some errands. As they sprint through the forest, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is physically fighting for her life to keep up with his pace. He isn't even breaking a sweat, and she's practically wheezing her lungs out. The terrifying reality sets in. She realizes his speed is completely inhuman. There is absolutely no way this guy is just an A rank. She might actually be casually hanging out with an S rank anomaly. They finally reach a massive, hidden stone door embedded in the side of a mountain. 𝗓𝗛𝗓 places his hand on the rock, officially introducing himself as 𝗓𝗛𝗓 Kim, age 26. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 matches his energy, introducing herself and dropping her tough guy act for a second. The door rumbles open, revealing the absolute last thing she expected to see inside a cave. It's a massive, sprawling underground black market. 𝗓𝗛𝗓 explains it's called 𝗬𝗨𝗥𝗡, an entirely illegal hub run by hunters who had criminal records before they awakened. Welcome to the literal underworld. He leads her straight to a sketchy, fortune-teller-looking old lady. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 slams her hand on the table, desperately asking if this granny can remove her cursed EX grade ring. The old lady inspects it closely, but her smug confidence instantly evaporates. A system window pops up reading "Unknown," and she admits she has absolutely zero clue what this nightmare jewelry is. Even the black market doesn't know what kind of curse she's carrying. The mystery just got 10 times deeper, and 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 realizes she is officially stuck acting as a luxury airbimb for a parasite. But the trip isn't entirely useless. The old lady shows her a shadow earring, a C-rank item that completely conceals the wearer's stats from anyone up to 2 ranks higher. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡's eyes instantly light up. Since her real rank is an A rank, wearing this means absolutely nobody, not even an S rank like 𝗓𝗛𝗓, can snoop on her stats anymore. The old lady asks for 3,000,000 won, almost 3 grand. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡, still deeply traumatized by her financial ruin, completely loses her mind and tries to pay with a credit card at an illegal mafia market. After aggressively haggling the granny down and securing the bag, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 successfully equips the earring. She looks over at 𝗓𝗛𝗓 with a smug, victorious grin. His inspect skill is officially permanently disabled. Walking back, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡's brain goes into overdrive. She realizes that hidden anomaly dungeons don't actually disappear when cleared. They just reset and pop up somewhere else on the map. The grand master plan forms. If she can track down the exact dungeon where she found the cursed ring, she might actually figure out a way to break the bond and take it off before she literally gives birth to a bug. But there's a massive, glaring problem. You can't just waltz into undocumented dungeons. You absolutely need high-level guild clearance. And after flattening her ex-boyfriend's uncle, she would rather die than join a guild again. Reading her frustrated expression, 𝗓𝗛𝗓 leans in with a sinister, incredibly cinematic smirk. He whispers that there are ways around the guild rules if she's willing to get her hands dirty. He steps into her personal space, his eyes glowing dangerously in the dark alley. And hey, he jokes with a chilling smile, if the ring won't come off, I could always just take the whole finger. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 glares right back at him, totally unfazed by his psycho energy. That's one cruel hobby you've got, she snaps back. The dynamic between these two is absolute fire, and their unhinged partnership has officially begun. We pick up right where the tension peaked in the waiting room. But before 𝗧𝗨 and the mysterious red-haired guy can clash, some random street thug decides to try his luck and grabs 𝗣𝗢𝗬's arm. Huge mistake. 𝗣𝗢𝗬 doesn't even blink before snatching the guy's wrist and squeezing, until we practically hear the bones crying for help. The thug instantly folds, screaming in pure agony. With zero hesitation, 𝗣𝗢𝗬 casually drags him out and hands the screaming criminal over to the local police like he's returning a lost wallet. Pure, effortless main character behavior. But before 𝗧𝗨 can even process the casual beatdown, a massive, fiery explosion violently rips through the building behind them. Absolute chaos just dropped out of nowhere. 𝗧𝗨 sprints for her life, staring back at the flames in sheer disbelief. She screams at 𝗣𝗢𝗬, asking if it's really normal to just casually blow up a building on a Tuesday. But 𝗣𝗢𝗬 is entirely unfazed. Less talking, more running, he tells her, keeping his stride perfectly even while she's practically fighting for her life to keep up. As they sprint deeper into the dark forest, a terrifying reality sets in for 𝗧𝗨. She's a heavily buffed A rank now, but he is effortlessly outpacing her without breaking a sweat. The math simply isn't mathing. She realizes there is absolutely no way this guy is just an A rank. Could she actually be casually jogging next to an S rank anomaly? The power scaling just went off the charts. They finally reach a massive, hidden stone door embedded right in the side of a mountain. 𝗣𝗢𝗬 places his hand on the rock, and the heavy gates violently rumble open. He turns to her and casually introduces himself as 𝗣𝗢𝗡, age 26, but tells her to keep his name quiet. 𝗧𝗨 matches his energy, keeping her guard fully up as they step into the unknown. Inside is the absolute last thing she expected, a sprawling, brightly lit underground black market. 𝗣𝗢𝗬 explains it's called 𝗬𝗨𝗬, a hidden sanctuary for awakened hunters with criminal records. Welcome to the literal underworld. He leads her straight to a sketchy, fortune-teller-looking old lady. 𝗧𝗨 slams her hand on the table, desperately asking if this granny has the skills to remove her cursed EX-grade ring. The old lady inspects it closely, but her smug, all-knowing confidence instantly evaporates. She leans back, sweating, and admits she has absolutely zero clue what this nightmare jewelry is. When she tried to appraise it, her system window just read, unknown. The mystery just got 10 times deeper. Even the top black market appraiser can't figure out the curse she's carrying. But the trip isn't entirely useless. The old lady shows her a shadow earring, a C-rank item that completely conceals the wearer's stats from anyone up to 2 ranks higher. 𝗧𝗨's eyes instantly light up. Since her real rank is A, wearing this means absolutely nobody, not even an S rank like 𝗣𝗢𝗬, can snoop on her stats anymore. She immediately buys it, locking her secrets down for good. Walking back, 𝗧𝗨's brain goes into tactical overdrive. She realizes that hidden anomaly dungeons just reset when cleared. If she can track down the exact dungeon where she found the ring, she might actually figure out how to take it off. But there's a massive, glaring problem. You can't just waltz into undocumented dungeons. You absolutely need high-level guild clearance. And after her last toxic guild experience, she'd rather eat dirt. Reading her frustrated expression, 𝗣𝗢𝗬 leans in with a sinister, incredibly cinematic smirk. He whispers that there are ways around the strict guild rules, dangling the bait perfectly. He steps into her personal space, his eyes glowing dangerously in the dark alley. If it won't come off, he jokes with a chilling smile, I could always just take the whole finger. 𝗧𝗨 glares right back at him, completely unfazed by his psycho energy. But then he drops the ultimate bombshell. He knows she's been to a hidden dungeon. The tension skyrockets. He brought her here to test her, and this unhinged partnership has officially begun. The episode kicks off with a massive, terrifying roar echoing through the dungeon. But for our duo, this isn't a life-or-death struggle. It's barely a Tuesday morning warm-up. A massive, terrifying jaw snaps shut, looking like absolute nightmare fuel. The impact kicks up a massive dust cloud, but our girl is entirely unbothered. The creature's jaws violently slam together, completely missing its mark. Turns out, this F-rank lizard soldier is just cannon fodder for them. She calls him out for telling her to stay alert against literal garbage mobs. She casually lands on her feet, looking more annoyed than threatened. She scoffs at the idea of taking these D-rank or lower monsters seriously. Honestly, the disrespect is completely justified. With zero hesitation, she backhands the lizard monster into the next dimension. She casually threatens to end our boy's life later for wasting her time. Our guy stays completely unfazed, dropping some crucial lore. He explains that most hidden dungeons discovered so far were buried inside low-tier trash dungeons like this one. She's literally wiping monster blood off her face while processing the strategy. That's why they are currently doing a full sweep of every dungeon, legal or not. He critiques her giant shield, telling her it's practically screaming their power level. Her response, a swift and utterly merciless bite me. You can literally feel the toxic coworker energy radiating off them. Suddenly, the ground shakes as something heavy steps into the arena. Before they can even locate the hidden entrance, the dungeon boss decides to crash the party. Talk about terrible comedic timing. An E-rank lizard general steps up, wearing a skull belt and looking like he owns the place. Bro really thought he was the main character for a second. Our guy casually asks how she wants to handle this walking handbag. He wonders if they should explore a bit more before permanently retiring the boss. They are treating this menacing general like a minor inconvenience. She hums in thought, completely ignoring the giant lizard flexing in front of them. The boss lets out a confused screech, wondering why he isn't getting any respect. The boss lunges forward, hoping to secure a quick kill, but before the boss can even blink, she whips around with terrifying speed. Her eyes glow with pure, unadulterated menace. She grabs the lizard general right by its scaly face. With a sickening splurt, she literally crushes its head like a ripe tomato. She casually remarks that this whole dungeon feels like a massive waste of time. The headless boss hits the ground, instantly folded by sheer absolute power. She confirms that if the hidden dungeon isn't here yet, it's a bust. Without a second glance at the absolute massacre she just caused, she decides it's time to bounce. She makes it crystal clear. She does not have time to waste on small fry. In a brilliant flash of light, they prepare to extract from the dungeon. On to the next target. The grind for this hidden dungeon never stops. Suddenly, we cut to a terrifying screeching noise in the dark. Massive claws and jagged teeth fill the frame as pure chaos erupts. A swarm of horrific monsters jab and snap endlessly. A terrified 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 screams for 𝗧𝗨𝗡 to help her. She's completely pinned down and fighting for her life. Her shield is failing, and she screams that she can't hold out much longer. The desperation in her eyes is deeply unsettling. A hand gently pats her shoulder, but the voice that follows is ice cold. 𝗧𝗨𝗡 casually asks why she's begging for help. He delivers the ultimate betrayal line, "You're the one who's supposed to die for me." Bro really hit her with the absolute worst team-building exercise ever. Her eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock and horror. He coldly states that her acting as his meat shield was the only reason her family sponsored him. With zero hesitation, he forcefully shoves her forward into the ravenous swarm. Top 10 anime betrayals don't even come close to this level of savagery. Tears stream from her eyes as gravity takes over. As she falls toward certain doom, he casually tells her to be a good investment and die already. Absolutely diabolical behavior. Dozens of glowing red eyes stare back at her from the infinite darkness. The scene cuts to pure, terrifying black. She jolts upright in bed, screaming from the residual terror. She's panting heavily, drenched in a cold sweat. The trauma from that day is still fresh and haunting her. Her eyes are wide with panic as she tries to ground herself back in reality. Her hand shakes uncontrollably as the adrenaline slowly drains away. She clenches her fist, absolutely furious that the bastard who killed her is still haunting her dreams. Even from beyond the grave, or whatever weird situation they are in, he still manages to get under her skin. She looks over to the side, and the source of her trauma is literally sleeping in her room. She watches him sleep peacefully like a baby, while she's having borderline heart attacks. The audacity of this man to sleep soundly. She stews in her resentment, wide awake from the nightmare he caused. She knows she's only playing meek right now because she's terrified he'll actually kill her. But she silently vows that sooner or later, she'll completely ditch his toxic presence. She flexes her hand, knowing she has the physical power to end him right here, right now. But she holds herself back. The timing just isn't right yet. She walks to the fridge, rationalizing her absolute restraint. Once she deals with the mysterious thing currently inside her, she's out. She dreams of the day she never has to step foot in another miserable dungeon again. Opening the fridge, she reaffirms that she won't be tied down by anyone or anything anymore. She pours herself a glass of water to cool off her murderous intent. Suddenly, reality hits her harder than a boss monster. She's incredibly late. She dashes to get ready, throwing on her clothes at Mach speed. She panics because she has a massive, highly important interview with the prestigious 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 Guild today. She curses her alarm for not going off, completely frazzled by the morning's chaos. Out on the street, a car pulls up and a voice casually offers her a ride. She immediately roasts him, pointing out he doesn't even own a car. She looks confused, wondering who is actually behind the wheel. Her eyes bug out as she recognizes the driver. It's 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 from the arena, and he casually asks how she's been doing. She gasps, completely caught off guard by this unexpected cameo. Stuttering, she asks what on earth he is doing here. The guy riding shotgun tells her she doesn't need to be so polite since they are the same age. She snaps back, asking who made him the boss of her manners. Meanwhile, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is having a full-blown internal crisis. He assumes Hyeonchan tracked him down for pure, unadulterated revenge. Sweating buckets, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 starts profusely apologizing for being out of line the other day. Bro is literally fighting for his life in his own head. He begs them not to kill him, completely folding under zero actual pressure. His soul literally leaves his body as he faints straight back into the driver's seat. The man completely blue-screened. She watches in sheer bewilderment, wondering what just happened. Hyeonchan just chuckles, noting that 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is pretty funny. Cut to Hyeonchan driving the car now, completely unbothered by the unconscious guy in the back. He casually asks Nara where she needs to be dropped off. Still processing the absurdity, she points to a crosswalk down the street. He casually asks which guild she's interviewing for. When she mentions 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡, he remembers their guildmaster recently raided a highly sought-after hidden dungeon. Nara confirms, noting that the guild completely blew up in popularity after that massive win. She cautiously suggests they ask 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 to join their search for their own hidden dungeon. Extra help couldn't hurt, right? Hyeonchan shoots that idea down immediately. Apparently, he and the 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 guildmaster aren't exactly on speaking terms. She hits him with top-tier sarcasm, asking if they are supposedly on good terms despite him wanting her finger as a souvenir. He complains that he's putting in all the effort, and she prays they finish this argument after she exits the vehicle. They arrive at a suspicious-looking location, heavily guarded by massive guys in sharp suits. Hyeonchan steps up, casually asking for the dungeon's status like a VIP. The guards clear him immediately. Nara is visibly confused, wondering who these mafia-looking guys are. He explains they are guild staff, assigned to manage this specific underground location. He drops a harsh truth bomb. Even illegal dungeons are corporately managed by guilds. He mocks her for not knowing how the real underworld operates. She's utterly ticked off by his arrogant attitude. She threatens to report him and this entire operation just to spite him. He calls her bluff perfectly. Reporting this place would ruin her own plans too. He smirks, telling her that if she doesn't shut up, she can go find a new partner, maybe the 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 guildmaster. She immediately declines. Realizing she's trapped in this partnership, she sighs and decides to just get this mission over with. Hyeonchan snaps at the guards to mind their own business and stand guard outside. Total boss energy. He scratches his head, genuinely bewildered by why she suddenly smiled earlier. Regardless of the weird tension, it's time to dive back in and start searching. Deep inside the dungeon, Nara is pacing, annoyed that Hyeonchan is taking so long. She's impatient to get this over with. She touches the strange, glowing ring on her finger. The heartbeat sound effect kicks in, ramping up the tension. Her eyes widen as she feels a sinister pulse from the jewelry. Her eyes narrow with deep paranoia. Between the nightmare and this weird pulse, she's highly stressed. She genuinely contemplates just ripping her own finger off to get rid of it. That's how desperate she is right now. Hyeonchan suddenly calls out from the brush, asking what she's doing over there. She completely deflects, yelling at him for taking forever and threatening to knock his brains out. He mockingly apologizes to Her Highness, internally noting that she's being incredibly bossy today. Nara glares at him, resolving internally that she needs to learn more about this cursed ring before doing anything drastic. She knows that even an impromptu amputation wouldn't cure whatever entity is currently inside her. She concludes she has absolutely no choice but to locate that hidden dungeon ASAP. Boom! 1 month later, a massive swoosh echoes as we cut to an expansive, high-altitude floating island terrain. A monstrous screech pierces the sky. A terrifying, three-eyed bird monster plummets toward them like a feathered missile. But Nara stands completely still on the battlefield, looking entirely unfazed by the incoming doom. The monster impacts with a devastating boom, kicking up a massive dust cloud. In a flash of brutal motion, a massive slash cuts right through the chaos. Feathers and monster parts go flying everywhere. She just diced an apex predator like it was a salad. The monstrous bird shrieks in pure agony as it gets completely eviscerated. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 watches the absolute massacre from the sidelines, looking moderately impressed. He notes that she is being way more aggressive than usual today and wonders what triggered her. Still, he realizes they are out of luck again, no sign of the hidden dungeon. He suggests they pack it up and call it a day. Suddenly, another massive entity crashes down from the sky, shaking the entire floating island. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 covers his face, casually remarking that this new arrival came out of nowhere. As the dust settles, Nara emerges, her hair whipping in the wind. With eyes glowing with pure battle lust, she smirks and asks if this new challenger is ready to be folded. Absolute main character. We pick right back up in the heat of battle, but something is horribly wrong. Nara locks onto her target, her eye glowing with absolute, uncontrollable menace. Moving with blinding, lethal speed, she launches a devastating attack. But she isn't aiming at the monster. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 easily blocks the strike, completely unfazed by the sudden betrayal. He casually remarks that her little ambush came totally out of nowhere. He shoots her a chilling glare, asking if she's seriously trying to challenge him right now. The tension is thick enough to cut with a broadsword. Without waiting for an answer, he decides to play along. Bro clenches his fists, entirely ready to deliver a brutal reality check. In a massive shockwave of power, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 creates distance, throwing her back into the sky. But suddenly, the bloodlust breaks. Nara lands hard, panting heavily as the fog in her mind completely shatters. Her eyes widen in absolute horror as she processes the scene. She looks at her own hands, terrified, wondering what the hell just happened to her. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 casually brushes off the attempted murder like it was a minor typo. He tells her she looks tired and suggests she sit this one out. With zero hesitation, he turns his back on her, casually announcing he'll go fold the boss himself. Peak nonchalant main character energy. Nara grips her head in a cold sweat, genuinely horrified that she just tried to assassinate her only lead to the hidden dungeon. A deep, terrifying realization sets in. Whatever entity is living inside her cursed ring is actively trying to hijack her body. She realizes she's completely running out of time. If she doesn't cure this soon, she won't just lose her mind. She'll become a literal monster. Later that night, the scene shifts to Nara's apartment. Her roommate, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡, returns home looking completely and utterly defeated. Nara asks what happened, and 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 admits she just got rejected by yet another guild. The modern job market is brutal even for awakeners, apparently. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 violently slams her glass down, absolutely fed up with the grind. She starts ranting about how being a C-rank buffer is basically the worst RNG in existence. She literally feels like a disposable background character. Nara casually takes a sip of her drink and hits her with the harsh truth. If she wants to get stronger, she just needs to hit the dungeons and grind her stats. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 immediately whines that it takes too much effort, completely missing the irony of talking to someone who fought their way out of hell. Then, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 drops the absolute worst question possible. She asks if Nara got so overpowered just by picking up some lucky rare item. Nara's internal monologue completely stops. The sheer audacity of this girl calling her lucky strikes a lethal, unforgiving nerve. We get a horrific glimpse into Nara's actual trauma, getting completely swarmed, ripped apart, and eaten alive by giant praying mantises. She had to feel every single agonizing second of being devoured, endlessly, without the sweet release of death. And 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 calls that lucky. Her eyes ignite with that familiar, murderous red glow. She sits there in pure silence, genuinely debating ending 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 right here in the living room. Unable to hold back the venom, Nara verbally snaps. She glares at the girl who literally sacrificed her, asking if she still thinks this is luck. Nara smiles, but it's pure ice. She calls 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 out, realizing the girl clearly doesn't feel guilty about using her as a human shield anymore. The silence is deafening before Nara finally forces herself to back down. She frantically apologizes, claiming the alcohol is making her crazy. But the damage is completely done. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is sweating bullets, her soul leaving her body as she realizes her roommate could fold her like laundry. 𝗧𝗎 sighs internally. She realizes she can't actually blame 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 for running her mouth, since the girl doesn't know the full nightmare. Deciding it's time to clear the air, 𝗧𝗎 stares deeply into her glass and decides to reveal a fraction of the truth. She admits that she did find a mysterious ring in that nightmare dungeon, but she drops a heavy reality check. The ring isn't a magical shortcut. The only real way to raise your stats is absolute, relentless violence. She tells 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 the brutal truth. You have to kill over and over, until your hands go numb and you completely lose count. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is completely lost. She points out the glaring plot hole in 𝗧𝗎's story. She escaped the dungeon almost immediately after the doors closed. The atmosphere drops to absolute freezing. 𝗧𝗎 looks her dead in the eyes and reveals the horrifying twist. She didn't escape. She died. Thousands of times. Maybe even tens of thousands of times. She was trapped in an endless loop of absolute slaughter. She was decapitated, torn limb from limb, and endlessly revived just to experience the torture all over again. She literally begged for permanent death. She tells 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 she never wanted a rare item or ultimate power. She just wanted the unfair, agonizing torment to stop. And the most terrifying part, when she finally broke out, she realized barely any time had passed in the real world. She lived a lifetime of hell in minutes. 𝗧𝗎 gives a broken, hollow smile, stating that this endless cycle of death is exactly how she became so overpowered. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡 is left absolutely speechless, staring at 𝗧𝗎 as the sheer, horrifying weight of the truth finally crushes her jealousy.